guys, it's BME Models today, and today in Blender we will be going into the material properties on the right hand side of Blender. We'll be going into the base color and other objects that we can change in there. If you haven't installed Blender before, make sure to do it right now, and if you don't know how to, just watch the video on my channel. There are also a lot of other videos on my channel. There are tutorials on different areas of Blender. There is also large projects. There will be a huge project coming out where I will create graphs in Blender. There will probably be 2 parts to that video. So if you haven't subscribed already, hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on that one coming out on Thursday. So today in this material properties area, we can start over here. If we click this preview button, we'll be able to see what our object will look like. If we change the color down here, let's go to a green, we'll have it here. If we change it to a different object, we'll have them all here too. That looks like grass, and this is a dome sort of area. This is cloth, and then liquid. You go into the particle properties over here, you can create it, and the cloth and liquid go into these other materials too in the physics properties down here in the fluid and cloth physics. So if we move that onto a square, then we can come down here. The surface we have here is Principled BSDF, but if we change that to, let's go for hair, and then if we changed it from here onto another area and another option to shade or to change. See here, it's a different idea coming here, and it doesn't look the same like the normal Principled BSDF. That's usually because it's a hair one, usually for particle edit and for these sort of areas. If we come back to Principled BSDF, you can see now that it's gone back to where it usually is. If you have this tab half on your screen because you're watching this video or something similar, then make sure to click Z and you can open up this shading area, and you can click rendered solid, material preview or wireframe. I'm going to do material preview because if I go on rendered, then I will see the lights, and that's not exactly what I want to see now. I just want to see the coloring. If we come down to here, there's base color. We can change the color. It's pretty obvious what will happen there. If we change this, it's sort of adding in this green to the white sort of area. We can see that it goes lighter and lighter as it goes in. Say we want to go for this mint color, then we can change this subsurface area. If we change this roughness, you won't see anything straight away, but after a while, when you render it, you will see a difference. And these just make it slightly rougher and different objects. These areas here that have the stars, you can actually change them when you do some 3D animation. If you click I, you can add it in. Say you want to change its base color to red, you can click I, or you can click this area, change it to that, move it along, change it, move it along. And since you've got this auto keying on, it will automatically key on the colors. If you haven't tried animation before in Blender, then make sure to check out my channel too. There is an animation video on Blender that you can watch. If we come down here, we have this metallic look. If we move this metallic to up the top, it will make this darker and look more like a metal. If we turn this to black, slightly lighter, we can see that it's sort of, the light reflects on it like some sort of metallic object. If we change up the specular, the light will also bounce off it more, and we can sort of see the areas around it. If we come into this area here, we can change the scene shading, the scene lights, the scene wheel. We can also change what it looks like, what will affect our object in the middle here. If we come over here and we change it to this, then it will change the color and how it reflects in this object. If we just move down here a bit more, there's a specular tint. It just means there'll be a slightly more tinted area to this model. If we move these down again, then we can see it's gone white. That's because the base color is dark. If we move that up a bit, we can change that. If we change this roughness, we can see that it's more like a ball, it's more rough. If we delete this quickly and add a there, if we add a new and then just add tons of roughness and then remove this specular tint, we can see that the light doesn't bounce off of it as much as it does on the metallic square cube. If we move on down to these, we can mess around and blend it with these if you want. If you haven't tried moving stuff around or changing them, then I would advise just having a go before watching tutorials like this, so you can try and guess or play around with what you can do in Blender. If we move these down to the bottom and then move on to the Shen, we can see here that you don't see much of a difference, but if we go into viewport shading, you can see that the light reflects off it a bit more, and then this tint is too. So if we move these down, then we can open the clear coat. It just means that it will become white, and since we haven't added a color, we won't see much of a change. But if we do add a color, we will see a large change or a whiter color of what we had, for quite like this one up here. So these are just a few of the quick material properties. I'm also going to quickly show you how to change this this circle world scene instead of having it just as these few here. So there is only a few here and we may want to change them. So if we go into shading, we can see, oh, we have our shade editor, and I've done a video on this. If you haven't watched that, make sure to do that now. And then you can see here, we can see the world around us that we've picked. We can see it moving around here. But we haven't actually, say we don't want this color, we can move down here and change it here. However, maybe you don't like the idea of that, or you want to change it. Well, there are ways around it. One way is to go onto websites. There are especially websites that you can, or people, other people have created stuff such as this, and you can change it yourself. I've used that before. It's very interesting to use. If you haven't, just search up and I'm sure there'll be a few there. If you don't know how to add them on, then I will quickly show you now. So if you see here, you can click this settings, object, and we can get these Blender preferences. Now in these Blender preferences, we can install editor, Matcat, Studio Lights, and HDRIs. So these are just custom lights and editing that we can create. See here that we can change this and move it around slightly if you want or like the idea of it. So we could save it here. Oh, and then maybe we want to use that, and then it'll be added in here. So you can see here there are only a few, and you can install them using this settings bar and other areas if you just search it up into a search engine. If we go back into this layout here and go into these data properties, we can see that there are vertex groups, Q shapes, and if you haven't learned about vertex groups, I've actually got a video on that too. Come down to vertex colors, we could probably add a color. We can see not much changes, and if we go into here, it will show when we click it. Now, if we go into vertex paint, it won't paint particularly, and so it shows that we don't have a vertex area that we can paint on. So